Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Fulton City School District annual budget hearing for our 2023-24 Fulton City School District proposed budget. This is Superintendent Brian Polvino, and with me this evening we'll have Chief of Operations and Finance Dr. Dominic Lisi and our Business Manager Danielle DiBiase. I'd like to begin with a moment of silence for our two students, Riley and Brady, who were involved in a tragic car accident in recent days. Please join me in keeping Riley, Brady, their families, and our entire learning community in your thoughts and hearts as we work through these challenging times. Thank you. This evening, I'll start off our presentation for our 2023-24 budget hearing. Next slide, please. Our mission for the Fulton City School District will empower students to develop the knowledge and skills to become respectful, responsible, productive citizens who are committed to lifelong learning. And our vision is to create a learning organization as the centerpiece of the community where all are welcomed and held to standards of excellence that foster hope and resilience for the future. We have a set of guiding principles and beliefs that have been in place for a number of years. These were actually been in place upon my arrival. They were in place. The focus, and I'll just highlight a couple. The Fulton City School District create a safe, secure, and positive learning environment through moral and ethical decision making, which fosters effective relationships among students, parents, and staff that will communicate effectively and intentionally throughout the district and with all communities of which it is a part. That will provide a quality educational experience which meets the needs of all of our learners, and that we will be fiscally responsible through using sound and efficient practices in all matters. And I won't read the beliefs, they're there in our presentation. Also, everything that we do and every decision that we make is associated with our Fulton City School District Strategic Coherence Plan, which has been in place since 2019. The areas of focus are leadership, literacy, instruction, social and emotional developmental health, family engagement, and innovation. We are in the process, we're starting to work on the extension of our plan. We're moving into in 23-24 will be the last year of our plan. So we're already starting that process and working with our community to extend our plan. But I will say that this plan has been a real centerboard throughout the last 5 years through the pandemic and whatnot. It really helped us stay the course. And I believe this budget, everything we do in our budget also ties back to our strategic coherence plan and allows us to maintain our focus. So I'm going to have Ms. DiBiase, if you can do this part, please.
Sure. So what's included in next year's budget proposal for us has continued support for all of the programs that are currently ongoing in our district. We also have additional funding to add 1 APE teacher, 1 music teacher, 2 behavior specialists, additional funding for security, classroom materials, and summer programming. Also included in this proposal are all positions which were previously funded by the CARISA grant. That was the second round of COVID stimulus funding that'll be coming to an end in September of 2023. So a closer look at the numbers here. We have, for our Board of Education, $20,890, for the superintendent, $370,619, for the finance department, $597,230, for personnel, $479,260. Operations and maintenance has $5,538,459. Central services has $763,245. And then the special items category, which includes our insurance, dues, claims, and part of our BOCES administrative costs, is $2,146,704. for a total of $9,916,407. So for our general support, I did want to point out that the increase in the superintendent category has to do with the administrative reorganization that was done last year and created the deputy superintendent position. So that's just a shifting of monies between categories. For the instructional portion of our budget, in administration and improvement, we have approximately $3.1 million. Regular education is $27.3 million. Special education is $10.9 million. We did add this year, we pulled out the English language learners program and put it in its own section. So you'll see that the increase is $323,000 for a total budget of $323,000. That's just pulling it out of the regular education, again, a shifting within categories. In the teaching for occupational, summer, and continuing education, we have approximately $2.2 million. Co-curricular activities is $136,000. Athletics is $798,000 for a total of $45,071,810. Altogether, the increase in our instructional budget projected for 23-24 is $4,431,245. And I want to highlight that because the increase in our foundation aid was approximately $4 million. And this is really where we're putting that increase is into our instructional budget. In the transportation and miscellaneous other category, we have for pupil transportation, $5.1 million, for employee benefits, approximately $18.5 million. In our debt service, we have approximately $5.3 million. And then for interfund transfer, we have $200,000 in the budget. $100,000 of that is to cover the local share of our extended school year program that we operate every year. And then the other $100,000 is for a capital outlay project, which is $100,000. It gets completed in the same year that it starts. So the total for that miscellaneous category is $29,166,783. Altogether, that brings us to our $84,155,000 budget, which is a $5,026,000 increase over last year's budget, and that equates to approximately 6.35% as an increase for the budget. So these are the same, it's the same budget, but we're going to look at it a little differently. The function areas tell you in general where we're spending it. This shows what we're spending it on. And for the most part, our budget is really going towards salaries and benefits for the staff, which is approximately 69% of the total budget is covered by salaries and benefits. So when you're looking at it, salaries are $39.1 million, equipment is $337,000, contractual expenses are $8.3 million, materials and supplies are $2 million, our BOCES services for our students are $10.1 million, our debt service again is that $5.3 million figure, and the employee benefits are $18.5 million. And you'll see again those same two interfund transfers I spoke about showing up here as well, getting us to our total of $84,155,000. So for our transfers, to give you a little more information about them, the extended school year program, we receive reimbursement for 80% of the approved cost of the program. The general fund, which is this budget, has to cover that remaining 20%. So that's what that $100,000 is for, is to continue operating that program. And then the transfer to the capital fund, it's a capital outlay project. No debt will be issued to do it. And it's to cover masonry chimney repair at the education center. And the work will be completed within the 23-24 school year.
With reimbursement?
And yes, the reimbursement we get in the following year instead of over a number of years like we would for a typical capital project. So when we're talking about the three-part budget, in the packets on the table, and it'll be posted to the website as well, and it's also part of our budget newsletter, there's a little more description about what goes into each of those three parts. For the admin, We have $8,735,366 for program, which is all of our teaching and things like that, is $63,216,551. The capital portion of the budget is $12,203,083, again getting us to that total of $84,155,000. You'll note that the program component of our budget is approximately 75% of the overall budget, with the capital portion making up 14.5% and the admin filling up the remaining. Our admin as a proportion of admin and program has dropped from 12.16% in 22-23 to 12.14% in 23-24. And again, this is an overall budget increase of 6.35%. I did also want to note that as the school district, we only have control over the tax levy, the total dollar value. The tax rates are calculated using our tax levy, the tax assessment on the property, and equalization rates. So although our proposed budget includes a 0% increase to the tax levy, an individual's taxes may go up or down depending on what happens with those assessments and equalization rates. So how are we going to pay for all of this? We have our total general fund budget of $84,155,000. The tax levy that we are proposing is $22,045,571. That is unchanged from 22-23. Our state aid is projected at $60,296,679. We do have a few other miscellaneous revenues, which we're projecting at $1,439,000. And we've also set aside some fund balance for $373,750 to get us to the total of $84,155,000. And you'll note that the state aid that we receive accounts for about 71% of our revenues, which we're very thankful for the state moving forward and committing to the fully funding of our foundation aid. So what will you see on the ballot? The first thing is yes or no on the budget. So proposition number 1 is, shall the Fulton City School District Board of Education be authorized to expend the sum of $84,155,000 as a general fund appropriation for the 2023-2024 school year and to levy the necessary tax therefore. In our next proposition is a vehicle purchase. So 3 vehicles are on the ballot. 1 minibus with wheelchair accessibility, 2 7-passenger vans, not to exceed a total of $240,000, and they are non-electric bus purchases, as we currently do not have the infrastructure to support purchases of electric buses. So proposition number 2 in its entirety reads, shall the bond resolution adopted by the Board of Education of the City School District of the City of Fulton authorizing the purchase of 1 replacement mini school bus with wheelchair accessibility and 2 replacement 7-passenger vans, including related furnishings and equipment incidental thereto, at a total estimated cost not to exceed $240,000, and the payment of the costs of the buses by the levy of a tax upon all the taxable real property of the district in the amount of $240,000, which tax shall be levied and collected in annual installments in such years and in such amounts as may be determined by the Board of Education, and, if necessary, in anticipation of such tax, the issuance of bonds and bond anticipation notes in the principal amount not to exceed $240,000, and the levy of a tax to pay the interest on said obligations be approved. The next proposition we have is the capital project. So we have a proposed capital project totaling $20 million to address health and safety issues and infrastructure improvements. It will be funded through debt issuance. And the estimated additional impact to the tax levy from that debt issuance is $0. So we've worked with our fiscal advisors to plan that as the aid from previous projects fall off, we propose another so that they even out and limit or reduce the amount of impact to the tax levy. And with this current planning, the estimated additional impact is $0. So the third proposition in its entirety reads, shall the bond resolution adopted by the Board of Education authorizing the construction, renovations, and improvements to Volney Elementary School, Fairgrave Elementary School, Granby Elementary School, Lanigan Elementary School, Fulton Junior High School, Education Center, G. Ray Bodley High School, and the high school athletic complex, including but not limited to alterations, site improvements, athletic field and playground improvements, mechanical, electrical, HVAC and security upgrades, original furnishings, fixtures and equipment required for such purposes, architectural fees, and all other necessary costs incidental to such work at a total estimated cost not to exceed $20 million, and the payment of the costs of the project by the levy of a tax upon all the taxable real property of the district in the amount of $20 million, subject to any available state aid, which tax shall be levied and collected in annual installments in such years and in such amounts as may be determined by the Board of Education, and in anticipation of such tax, the issuance of bonds and bond anticipation notes in the principal amount not to exceed $20 million, and the levy of a tax to pay the interest on such obligations be approved. The next proposition we have is to establish a capital reserve with a $10 million lifetime limit, a 15-year lifespan, whose purpose is to finance whole or in part the cost of capital projects. And the existing capital reserve that we have was established in 2012 with a 12-year lifespan, so that is set to expire. Proposition number 4 reads, shall the Board of Education of the Fulton City School District be authorized to establish a capital reserve fund for a 15-year term pursuant to section 3651 of the Education Law, and fund such fund in an amount not to exceed $10 million, inclusive of accrued interest and other investment earnings, to be used for renovations and additions to all district facilities, including purchase of equipment, technology upgrades, classroom equipment and/or school infrastructure equipment, site development, athletic fields, storm and sanitary sewer, driveways, and parking lots. Such reserve fund to be funded from 1, the balance on deposit from the existing capital reserve fund, 2, year-end budget surplus funds, known as unassigned fund balance, as available for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2023, and each fiscal year thereafter for the term of the reserve fund. 3, transfers of excess monies from Board of Education designated reserves. 4, amounts from budgetary appropriations from time to time. And 5, New York State aid received and made available by the Board of Education from time to time, all as permitted by law. Proposition number 5 is for the library tax. It reads, shall the Fulton Public Library Board of Trustees be authorized to levy and collect an annual tax separate and apart from the annual school district budget in the amount of $493,543, which is an increase of $23,502 from the $470,041 levy currently in existence for the continuing support and maintenance of the Fulton Public Library, with this appropriated amount to be the annual appropriation until thereafter modified by a future vote by the taxpayers of the Fulton City School District. Proposition number 6 for the Board of Education candidates. Individuals can vote for 3. 1, Fallon Hutchinson. 2, Nicholas DeJorme. 3, Susan Collins. 4, David Cordone. 5, Brenda Albagore. Proposition number 7, to elect public library candidates. Vote for 2, Mary Elliott, Meg Farrell.
That's an overview of our budget. Other questions? Thoughts, things that come to mind? I believe it's a budget that supports our needs. I think it's a budget that Over the next couple of years, we really need to monitor the state. We're now caught up this year. While you saw the increases in the foundation aid, you saw those $4 million, almost $5 million increases. We've taken advantage of that opportunity, and it sets us up. Finally, we are fully funded for the first time in this district in a very long time, and so that's good news. The issue will be in the next 2-3 years, 25, 26 school years. We're going to have to look at the fiscal cliff. Where's the state going to be with their revenues as the COVID monies and all of those other pandemic monies are funneled through and out and are through? What's going to happen in the future? I believe we've positioned ourselves in this budget, and we're really foreshadowing for the future to anticipate those opportunities, and this budget includes many of those support positions, and we will continue to monitor and to adjust, and we'll make those decisions. We're looking at the maximum return investment on every position that we have, and we will continue to do so, especially all of those new positions from the federal funds that we moved over for this year because the funding was there and we needed to keep in place for our students. We'll continue to monitor those closely. So I think this is a budget that meets our needs, most importantly meets the needs of every one of our children. So with that, are there any questions from our audience this evening? Yes?
I did have a question. My name is Shelby Fowler. Thank you for all the work everyone put into it. I know doing a balanced budget is not easy. I do have a question. I'm new to the Fulton area and New York taxes in general. The student transportation vehicle proposition, is that a levy outside of the budget? Like, or is that $240,000 outside of the?
Sure. So the $84,155,000 does not include that $240,000. The way it works is that if it's necessary for us to issue debt to purchase those vehicles, they would be done through a ban or a bond, and the cost of that, if there's any impact to the tax levy, would be added to the levy in future years. That said, I believe at the time it's our intention to purchase them without needing to issue that debt. We do typically pass the bond resolution to ensure that we have the option to make sure that we're able to provide those vehicles if the voters approve it. But in the past, we have purchased in cash and have been able to not have an impact to the tax levy.
Okay, and obviously the prices change and things like that. So is it like on a rotation cycle, and then that's just as a backup?
So we have we do replace a few buses every year, which I think, is that what you're asking? Is that it's not all at once?
I guess the thing that's throwing me off is having it separate from the budget, like if it's already planned.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it separate, I guess?
Sure, so that is for something called severability. So it's voted on separately, so that if the voters want to vote no on that, they can still choose to vote yes on other propositions. It keeps it separate from the general fund budget. So by not including it with that $84 million, it just provides a little flexibility for the voters to have their voices heard.
Okay, thank you. That I think I understand. Then the other question is, I see that the capital improvement project that's being done on debt issuance for the $20 million, and then we also have the $10 million lifetime limit. Is that $10 million? I see it's renewed. Is that what we use on a regular basis? I guess I'm trying to understand the difference between the $20 million and the $10 million, why we have both of them.
Sure. So the $20 million is for a planned capital project. So that's actually work that's been identified as needing to be done right now. The capital reserve helps us plan for future work. So what we use the capital reserve for, like in our past capital project that's just finishing up right now, we're entering the last phase of it, we set aside funds in the capital reserve, and when we went out to the voters to request approval for the project, we were able to say, listen, we're going to use money from that capital reserve to be able to build, for example, the turf fields. So what it helps us do is set that money aside to reduce the impact to taxpayers on any future projects.
Okay. And then the $20 million is being, how does that work into that? The $20 million that's being
So that would be funded through bonds and bands, and that's debt issuance. But like I mentioned before, so when we do a capital project, we receive aid back from the project, and we work with our fiscal advisors to plan so that the aid and the cost of that debt either very closely or completely equal out, so that there is a limited to no additional impact to the tax levy that goes out to the voters. So we're getting that aid money back, we're making the debt payment out, and what we do is we plan that so that there's no impact. We try to get them to net out as much as we can.
Okay, so it shouldn't potentially be, even though it's not affecting the levy, because I just came from a district that passed a very large one, and it ended up being an additional $350 to each person on top of, and so it's not as, it wouldn't be a.
No, right now the estimated impact of the $20 million project to future tax levies is an additional $0.
Yeah, we've worked very hard with that. As a small city school district, I'll do my infomercial here. Every other school district in New York State, with exception of small city school districts, is allowed a 10% debt limit. In small cities, according to the New York State Constitution, we have 5%. So you may see neighboring districts that are rural school districts, central school districts, everybody except a small city. There are 57 small cities in the state of New York, so that'll give you a piece there. And so the 57 school districts that are small cities, we can only go to 5%. So for example, on this project, we have probably over $40 million worth of priority work. We're talking simple things like bathroom systems, water systems in our schools, HVAC units, just basic nuts, bolts, plumbing, so on and so forth, where we're always playing catch up. And if you look historically in small city school districts, you'll see a series of small capital projects, 14 million, 16 million, 9 million, all these smaller projects. Our current project was a $15.1 million project. So you see how we nut and bolts to the point where, we were basically catching up. We're fixing the things that need to be repaired the most, as opposed to getting out in front of things, which isn't a great way to do business. And so what the state of New York, and we've worked 2 years as small city school districts, I believe there's going to be a referendum on the November ballot for New York State for the Constitution for the 57 school districts to go to 10%. So right now, if we were able to go to a 10% debt limit, we could have actually rolled out a $40 million project and really tackled even more aggressively what we could, the nuts and bolts and the basic necessities, but also what do we need to provide our kids in a 21st century classroom? The science, technology, that's where we're going. So my fingers are crossed that we're going to pass that debt limit. That will allow this district to do things that we've never been able to do before besides catching up. And we've always had a commitment to keeping us as close to that zero as possible. And I think because we're a small city, we've learned to do that. Because we were also, as we talked about earlier, we weren't fully funded for decades. And there's been, lawsuits. One is by small cities. The Maystow case was just settled, and they're working through what that's going to cost. But you'll also see there was the Campaign for Fiscal Equity back in about 15 years ago, where the state of New York, that's why they've said you were not funding schools adequately. And so small cities we're high need, and we're also, low wealth. And so that combination has a lot of needs with our kids. So it's a great opportunity. So that's my infomercial. More to follow on that. But that's what the tool for. The reserves allows us to build the capacity. The field was a great example. We took $1.3 million, put it towards the field this year. That was said 10 years ago. That was told to the community. We're going to take $1 million or more at that time now to resurface it. And that's what we did.
Thank you for doing that, because I in a different state where we had to replace 3 schools because they were poorly maintained, and unfortunately it was a huge bond. And so putting money into our schools to maintain them and not have to go through rebuilding, right. A huge supporter of. So
yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you for answering my question.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing our future Fulton City School District student with you this evening. So thank you. Great questions. So we talked about the reserve, capital project, the proposition around the bus was a great one. And just on the bus one, just to bring that back around, we have a very small fleet, and that's what this is for. We run vans and small buses, wheelchair buses. And that's what we run. And then we have a partner in Golden Sun which is the larger transportation contract, where we're one of the only, I think we're the only ones in Oswego County that actually contract for bus services. And we've been with them for many years. And that's also, we don't then have legacy cost. There's a lot of positives that go along with that as well. And they're great partners as well. Are there other questions this evening? Very good. Well, I encourage everyone to vote on May 16th, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We have 2 voting sites this year. One is on the east side of the river, one is on the west side of the river. On the west side of the river, it's at our War Memorial, so if you reside on the west side of the river, and we also sent postcards, there's information on our website with respect to this. There's going to be press releases, but if you have any questions about where you might vote, please call our business office or the superintendent's office. We can answer that question for you. The east side is going to be at the Fulton Community Center, which is where our fire and police chief and our mayor's office is. It's in the community room at that site. So please take advantage and get out there and vote and share what you're thinking about our district. The vote is one way to share that with us if we're meeting our needs or not, and we're always striving to do the best we can for every one of our kids every day. So with that, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, please reach out to our business office or the superintendent's office, and we're here to serve. Thank you. Have a great evening and a great week. I'm going to add something this evening. We're going to show we put together a capital project video just recently. We're going to show that as well to conclude our evening. It's about 3 minutes. Hello, this is Superintendent Brian Plovino. I'd like to take this opportunity to provide highlights from our most recently completed Hello, this is Superintendent Brian Plovino. I'd like to take this opportunity to provide highlights from our most recently completed capital project and introduce the proposed elements for our next 2023 capital improvement project, which you will be voting on May 16th, 2023. Since late fall, our athletic teams have been using the newly turfed complex and renovated track. All are brightly lit by our new field lighting systems. In addition to the work completed at the complex, several of our buildings benefited from new parking lots with improved lighting, sidewalks, driveway upgrades, windows, doors, and other exterior and interior renovations. In preparing for the proposed 2023 capital improvement project, our district facilities and maintenance teams, along with the help of King & King, our architects, conducted buildings condition survey to determine district infrastructure needs that would help support the overall work of our learning community. The collaboration between our staff and King & King helped in discovering over $40 million in needs ranging from building infrastructure, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and security. Our allowable maximum debt limit provides up to $20 million to assist in meeting these needs. At Fairgrave Elementary, the front steps, bathrooms, windows, and building security were identified as critical, high-priority items. Granby Elementary will benefit from parking lot improvements, pool upgrades, other infrastructure repairs, and security upgrades. Lanigan Elementary will also receive security upgrades as well as mechanical and plumbing repairs. Volney Elementary is identified as needing various plumbing and mechanical renovations as well as security and playground improvements. Junior High is planning to receive new windows, security updates and upgrades, elevator modernization, and other critical mechanical and infrastructure repairs. G. Ray Bodley High School's proposed work includes parking lot reconstruction, gymnasium bleacher replacement, structural improvements, auditorium stage lighting, and additional security, mechanical, and infrastructure renovations. The proposed work at the athletic complex includes a new grass field drainage system, dugouts, signage, and other related upgrades. And lastly, the plan includes mechanical and infrastructure work at the 4th Street Education Center. And finally, on May 16th, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., you'll have the opportunity to vote on the capital improvement proposition as well as other propositions that on the ballot. Those include a capital reserve fund, board members elected to our Board of Education, of which there'll be 3 this year. You'll also have the opportunity to vote on the Fulton Library budget as well as the Fulton Library's Board of Trustees. There'll be 2 voting locations this year. Those locations are on the east side and the west side of the river. One is if you live on the west side of the river, you'll have the opportunity to vote at the Fulton War Memorial. And if you live on the east side of the river, you'll be voting at the Fulton Community Center. I look forward to working with you and for you in 2023 and 24. Thank you.